It's one thing for us to read about the different technologies and the challenges that we would face in administrating, leading, being a part of a technology team, but I'd like to talk about it from personal experiences and an administrative viewpoint. One of the top concerns when it comes to managing technology is, of course, budgetary. Technology is expensive, and there are always reasons to not choose technology because it's too expensive. Because budgetary concerns sometimes rise to the front of other concerns, especially in a Christian-based institution, we have to ask ourselves, are we really being a good steward of what we have? Is this really the best use of our money? And what would the biblical principle be that would apply itself to these kinds of decisions? And then there are always the competing ideas and priorities that are tied to IT and technology, and what kinds of technologies take precedence over others. What about all of the other technologies that it has to integrate with, and do they work together? And then there are the staffing and organizational models tied to that. Does IT oversee the academic technologies, or are those kept separate? And I have worked in both of those organizational models. And I can tell you from firsthand experience that IT, in my opinion, should never have control of the academic technology or the LMS. That's primarily because people who work in IT have a different, very technical perspective as opposed to people who work on the academic side with technology, and how they approach its uses, how they think about integrating or using those technologies, and the fact that they should also be supervised by two different areas so that we don't have two competing paradigms. We also must realize that we have different gifts. In His grace, God has given us different gifts for doing certain things well. And as Christians, we must honor the fact that someone else has a gift different than ours, and understand that and use that to create strong teams. This goes into the whole area of digital integrations, and this is definitely one of the barriers when you talk about managing or adopting technology. I mentioned it earlier as far as your admissions and enrollment softwares, your student registration softwares. Those take on a lot of different activities, and do those interact, and will they duplicate is a very big question to ask. And I think finally, one of the major questions that must be asked as an institution, are we about the student? Are we looking at how technology can enhance the student's experience? Will it enhance the student's experience? Will there be issues with adoption or application among those who are the practitioners, and how do we win them over to using the technology that can be so important for our students? Obviously, there are a lot of moving pieces when it comes to considering technology and how we use it in any institution, whether it's for-profit, nonprofit, or higher education. The one thing I always insist on consideration when we talk about planning anything is, will it be strategic and intentional, and not just the latest trend, not just a whim, not just something that sounds cool, but does it have a specific purpose that will solve a specific problem that can't be solved any other way? If we are being strategic and we are being intentional, then we should be calling on God's wisdom to guide us. And just like we talked earlier about where our values come from and how they affect our decisions, this will affect the kinds of things we think about when we're trying to be strategic or intentional in the plans we make, even as it relates to technology.